Wonderful that you have tuned in, because today we are talking about a very important topic. It's about routine. Establish a routine so that the pain becomes less, permanently goes away, does not come back, and so on. And this is a serious issue. And this is Felix. And you might already know Felix, if not. There are already 2 videos with Felix that we have published. One was a spontaneous story because he came and we wanted to shoot something, but he had back pain. I did not know that. He may have seized the opportunity and I treated him. And a few weeks later, how long was it later?
So maybe 2 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, I think.
Then he was back and I said, well, Felix, back pain gone. He says, no, not completely, and so on. And then I asked him if he regularly did the exercises. And now you have to think, Felix, how long have you been with us now?
Already over 5 years.
For over 5 years. Felix has been an employee of ours for 5 years. He knows that what we do works well in the vast majority of cases. He knows you work on all the comments, right?
Yes, correct.
So he knows the comments from all of you, where it always says, yes, that works, you have to do it regularly. If I had asked you, does our approach with the exercises work, would you have said something?
A clear yes.
A clear yes. And yet, even though he theoretically knows it, he has not implemented it for himself. Crazy, right? But it's quite good to discuss it like this because it clarifies how much this laziness gene, which we carry within us, that energy-saving program, comes from evolution. It just spends the energy on something, invested in something that absolutely needs to be done immediately in order to survive in the end, right? If you simplify it a bit.
Yes.
So, as you said yourself, after the first treatment, what happened after this spontaneous treatment?
Yes, so after the first treatment, the pain was gone.
Yes. So he has felt the practical evidence.
Exactly. So I then, after the treatment, noticed how relieved it feels after the osteopressure and after the stretches we did together.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
And now the question to him is, which you would probably also like to ask him, what exactly prevented you from still doing the exercises regularly?
Yes.
What exactly was it? Because that is now very important for the viewer, for the viewers.
Yes, so I had felt the effect after we did it, and then I just thought, okay, the pain is gone, it is no longer an acute problem. So if there is no acute problem, then you don't have to do it. At least that's how I felt.
Although you had been given completely different information. Describe to me exactly this conflict between your, yes, unconscious maybe, between your feelings and the intellectual knowledge that you had to do it regularly.
Yes, so I believe it works like this. The first day one says to oneself, well, today I didn't manage it, so I'll just do the exercise tomorrow. And then you say, I will do the exercise for only 1 minute instead of 3 or 2.5 minutes, or somehow just shorten it. So I'm speaking for myself now. One tries to simplify, one tries to postpone it partially. And although I knew and also saw after your treatment how well it works, it didn't really strike me. I would say I no longer had an acute problem, so I left it at that. When bending over, I felt it again, but I was not restricted in any way and therefore was not forced to take action, so to speak, yes.
From that, I'll derive a behavioral recommendation for the viewers.
Yes.
So, how do you get rid of this hernia? It doesn't hurt as much anymore, it's not bothering me as much anymore, and that's why I'll just leave it, even though I know I have to keep going. So that this joint always moves further away from the pain threshold, what would you recommend?
Yes, for me, with time, I simply became aware of how important it is to do something. Because the problem then haunted me for weeks, so I procrastinated for a long time, for weeks. And you always have in the back of your mind, I should do the exercises. I actually know how to get rid of this problem. Over time, I started again doing the exercises. I am speaking for myself now. As soon as you have been in it for a day or two, you do the exercise by yourself, and then again, you start to elude them. You sit down and take your phone, etc.
But that is the next step. We do not want to rush now, because he came for the second time. The second time we tried to find out what is the reason for this. At that point we tried to find out because he had He had already done the exercises a bit. I think we did it 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes, exactly.
And then also getting shorter all the time. What do you derive from this for yourself 6 days a week when a problem is just there? Prevention is something else, right? If you have the problem 6 days a week, 1 day off, but regularly and always adhere to the 2 minutes. Because under 2 minutes, again briefly for explanation, in case you don't know that yet. The fascia, this connective tissue, needs up to 30 seconds. Yes, it must be stretched longer. Yes, that is our goal in order to even begin to give in. That means stretches below these 30 seconds I would not recommend at all. That is a very intertwined time that doesn't bring much. So that would be my personal opinion, which corresponds to our experience, yes. And then the effect starts, but if you only practice for 1 minute, which you have just done, yes, that is too short. But if then another 1.5 minutes are added beyond the first half minute, then we are in the area where you notice, wow, this works. What Roland is talking about, it works, yes. And then I was there for the second time and did what I do with patients, and that's when we found out what went wrong. I had him do the exercise again, and what was the effect then?
So I have to say, at that moment I also felt a bit caught, because then I naturally realized, okay, now I actually have to show what I should have been doing in the last few weeks. Yes, so I still knew my exercises, luckily, but then I first noticed, okay, if I had done the exercises regularly, then I could have done them better. So that was the first thought, and I noticed, okay, it actually still works pretty well at the beginning. Progress had not been made at that time, yes. Should I continue?
With pleasure. Everything that is exciting for the viewers to somehow understand how you can improve yourself, yes, always learning from the problems that arise and are being discussed.
Also important for me was to be reassured again that what one is doing helps, even if that sounds simple now, but I believe that. Especially in such a situation, you can say it 2 or 3 times, do it, it helps you, and then you simply feel the effect again in your own body. We then did the exercises together. I went into the back stretching. And I was confirmed again, it works. What we are doing works for a day, but I have to do it regularly.
And now again, pay attention, the second time he tried, he got again proof that it works. So now I ask you the question, we didn't discuss it beforehand. Completely authentic now, on how many days out of 7 days have you done the exercises since we were together for the second time?
Actually, every day.
Honestly, every day?
Okay, so I may have skipped a day, but that's okay.
Is 1 day of rest allowed out of 7 days?
Yes, we had agreed that I could take a day off, but I actually did it every day, and sometimes even twice a day. Because I was sitting at home and thought to myself, man, now I should really do another exercise, and I'm saying this completely neutrally. But you can easily incorporate the exercises into your daily routine, and there are even exercises you can do while lying in bed, as we have already shown routines on YouTube. You can do the exercises while lying in bed, you can do the exercises while standing at the desk. Then sometimes when I was at the desk, I just leaned back and went into the splits, and you do that for 1.5 minutes and you already feel the effect.
1 day, 2.5, I promised you just now, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes. Just quickly for you to understand, these 2 minutes, one can practice too briefly, anything under 2 minutes. I personally think it's too short from my experience, but you can also practice too long. That's not a bad thing. Something still happens. But time is just short these days, and that's why I've been trying for over 30 years to find out what is the minimum time commitment. And where does it start? That too much time is invested for too little effect. And those are exactly those 2 to 2.5 minutes. That is our experience at least.
Does one already have an effect after 1 minute?
You have an effect, yes, but the effect, so I would show it with a curve at the beginning, like a coordinate system. At the beginning, the first 30 seconds, not much happens, and then the curve starts to become steeper. And then it gets pretty steep. for about 1.5 to 2 minutes in my experience, and then it flattens out again, and then it continues slowly. There are systems, yoga systems, that stretch for 5 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and that also makes sense because then you are a little more in it. There is the meditative aspect of sinking into the body, and so on, which then comes more and more to the forefront. There is nothing wrong with that. Please do not misunderstand. It is a practice. But if you have timing in mind, so not too much time for too little effect, then I would stop at 2.5 minutes, yes, and therefore always these 2 to 2.5 minutes.
And then you also have the lasting effect that you want to have when you stretch for so long.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is especially important with stronger musculofascial tensions. And it probably won't help if I just quickly stretch and then start thinking again.
Yes, no, that's it. You might only feel 10, 15 minutes better, but the really intense, truly mechanical winding on one side. And the musculature that normalizes according to its tension ratios, yes, you have that in these 2 to 2.5 minutes. I always have to add, we also have to do studies in the future, yes, to prove it again, but that is the whole experience in the last 35 years that I have been doing this. And for me, that is true, yes. Yes, and when one feels the effect on their own body and realizes that they are making progress, then I believe that is already a great proof. Another topic? Have you not seen the other exercises we did yet? Let's quickly go through the exercises again. Go into your first one, go directly into the first one, directly in, head to where you like, okay, the spinal exercise, yes, what do you have to pay attention to?
Here I would pay attention to ensure that the distance between the feet and the buttocks is correct.
What does correct mean? Go with your hands to your toes and now walk a little back to your buttocks and describe. What you feel is always further back, and if you now notice tension building up here in the lower back, yes. Then the position is okay, and then you can achieve further stretching by pulling yourself forward through bending your arms.
I feel it here now. If I may just quickly add, I also feel it here at the back of the knees in the lower area.
Everything is fine. You feel it in the hip, you feel it in the buttocks, you feel it on the outside of the thigh, even down to the back of the knee. That doesn't matter. Always only reach the intense that you can just bear it well, okay? Always stay below this threshold. Exercise number 1 looks perfect and you have already come a long way, I believe.
At the beginning, I can show you briefly again. I think I was like this and already had pain. If I take the time now and go into the exercise, then I already come down very far with my head.
And that is the effect we want to achieve, yes. So, our pain therapy is quite simple. The longer everything gives way, the more it can give way, the less pain there is. Do the second exercise again.
Yes, I have to admit I felt the second exercise easier with our tool.
Okay, get that. Get a few books and the tools and let's start the exercise without any tools.
First without aids, okay, yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I still had problems partially targeting the lower back, so that was pulling in the belly button.
So again, this is also for you. I always say, before this exercise, this abdominal exercise as we call it, which could actually be called hip flexion exercise. Yes, first of all, make a cat hump here, so come out really round and now try to maintain this position. And the belly button plays a big role in terms of activation. When Felix now pulls in his navel, then he stays in that position, and now the little trick is to continue going down with the groin leading, with the navel pulled in. Do that, Felix. Yes, it's still hanging, I see, right? Maybe you notice actually Felix could go much further down with his buttocks, but he doesn't because the hip flexor is pulling so strongly that it gives way up here, right? And that's why for Felix, it's always about balancing now. Keep the belly button pulled in, pull it in more, and still let yourself go down there. By the way, that was perhaps intuitively correct of you, because then you can control it better by using the aid. We'll show that as well. Please lie on your back. You can use a tool or take books. It doesn't matter now. Let's take the books. What height was that approximately? Do you know it? Can you remember?
I think the height should be correct.
Lie in supine position. Okay? Supine position means lie down on your back.
Should I go already? Oh, already there.
Yes, exactly. And now lift yourself up with your pelvis.
Yes.
And important now, go a little higher. You go even higher. Should I take that down?
Yes.
Okay? Then slowly go down now. And important, whatever you place underneath, whether it's books or tools, it doesn't matter, it must rest on the sacrum, so the sacrum must be supported. Do not arch your lower back in the lumbar spine, nothing bad would happen, but then you won't have this effect. So, and now straighten your legs. That should already be pulling, right?
Yes, it is already slightly pulling.
I could imagine it well, yes. And now the next step would be for you to gradually move your feet further apart.
So, right?
Yes, feet always further apart, and then you notice what?
So now there is actually more pulling in the lower back area, yes.
Exactly, yes. Because when the legs are pulled apart, the hip flexor is also pulled, which is why there is now pain in the lower back. So you don't need to be scared if it pulls in the lower back. It should just be bearable in terms of intensity, but the more you spread your legs, the more you engage in this pull, in this stretch that we want here, and then keep increasing it further.
Yes.
Okay?
I also always had the feeling during stretching that when you lay on it for a minute, you really stretched out. So then one was really deep in the stretch and it was simply more intense.
Yes.
So you have to warm up briefly, but then, yes.
The body's quite simple. You pull on its structure, and after a while, the structure gives way.
Yes.
Yes, it can be that simple. And Felix, you only did these 2 exercises, so only in quotation marks, because when you do both, it is already a lot.
Yes, I have noticed it.
Any other tips for the viewers?
Yes, so I can only speak for myself, but I would try to incorporate these exercises into your everyday life once you have done it for a day or 2. Then the exercises practically do themselves, and I would also say, set realistic goals. Don't say, I will do 5 exercises a day. I think you can start with 2 or 3 first.
Little to begin with.
Exactly.
And then add more.
Exactly. And when one realizes that it works, then one is already motivated, I believe.
Maybe one more piece of information for you, so you have some idea of what to expect when you start a routine. Yes, the first days are the hardest.
Yes.
And then, depending on what else you do for physical exercising, think about brushing your teeth. Yes. Brushing teeth is something that is almost done automatically. Almost everyone, at least, yes, man or woman, doesn't matter. And you get used to exercises that it almost happens automatically, without thinking that it is effort and takes time and whatever else. The most important this is keeping regularity. Normally this effect starts quite clearly after 2 weeks. At the latest after 4 weeks, it is so ingrained that you actually can't manage without practice anymore.
One even has fun then.
Yes, exactly. Something is missing. If you don't do it, something is missing.
Yes.
Thank you for being back.
Yes, thank you.
And what do you do regularly now? 6 days a week still?
Yes. 2 exercises.
Great. Goodbye.